Hey guys, this is Jeff Conti, your YouTube knife mentor. I wanted to bring you along for this part of the ride in building this knife, and I really believe in naming knives. A big deal for me is if I talk about one of my knives with somebody, I don't like to say, my 6 3/8 inch wilderness bush knife or whatever. I'd rather say, I would like to talk about the Achilles knife, or talk about the jejunum knife, or talk about the Quest knife, or something like that. So I give names to all of my knives. It makes it easier to talk about, and it gives kind of a life to those knives. I really enjoy that, and they're my knives. And I get to have fun naming them, and I enjoy it. So I'm going to take you along for the ride on naming this one, and I haven't settled yet, but I can show you where I am, and I'll show you how I got started. And the first word that really resonated with me on this knife is the word wild, and I thought, well, I really like that word. But the next word, obviously, wilderness, right? So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. What other words kind of resonate a little bit? And I thought of outdoor, and I thought of survival, and these words don't really resonate very much with me. But that was where I got started, and so I looked them up in the Greek, and then I looked them up in Latin, and I don't really know why I wanted to look at the Greek, but it just was something to compare, right? So I thought, well, that's a good idea. So I did look them up in Hebrew also, just to see if there was any differences, and there was some other languages I thought of, and I just kind of settled on Greek and Latin, and it's just what I thought. Anyway, when I looked up the word wild, that none of those names resonated with me. I thought, well, okay, let me go to wilderness, and I thought, well, okay, that's all right, and outdoor, and I thought, whoa, wait a minute, I don't even know what to do with that, much less pronounce it. And so again, the Latin, and then survival, and so I thought, well, what other words could I use that might help me with this naming? Because so far nothing is really resonating with me, something giving life and thought to this knife. So I added some other words. I really like the word freedom, and liberty is a big deal. Independence is big deal. Live, I like the word live, but I'm not sure how it fits on this knife. But life was a big deal, and then reliance and self-reliance, and some of these words, especially in the Greek, and look even over here in the Latin, is well, there's something about naming a knife. You kind of want it to be somewhat short. So anyway, I started looking them up in the Greek and the Latin, and I really like liberty and independence, the libertatum. But I also like libertas. But vita, and I thought, well, what about wilderness life, right? And so I looked it up in Google and how to orient the words, and it's actually vita deserto in order to say wilderness life. So I kind of figured out that's just going to be the same way with the rest of these, right? Libertas deserto, libertatum deserto is kind of how it's going to go if I want to say wilderness life. If I try to do something else like independence in the woods, it kind of mixes things up when you start getting into the Latin. So I'm going to keep it kind of short, kind of sweet, but something that sounds good, something that resonates with me, something that gives life to the knife in terms of, when I have it on my hip and I'm thinking about it, and or I talk to somebody else about it. So anyway, that's how I got to where I am so far. I think my big three are going to be Vita Deserto, Libertas Deserto. I really like, and you can see I've got my lines drawn over here, I really like the Libertatum Deserto as well. It's a little bit long for me, but as long as it gives me the resonation that I want with this knife, I'll go with it anyway. So that's where I'm at. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. If you have any comments about where I'm at so far in these, or if you like one better than the other, let me know. I'm interested in what you guys have to think. So this is Jeff Conti, your YouTube knife mentor. Go out and have fun making a knife.